I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Hi, I'm Michelle, and this week we're going to be talking about self-compassion, a secret ingredient to calmer parenting. And before I get into today's show, if you haven't checked it out already, there is a new offer. I created the morning reset. It is a reset to help you take your mornings from chaos to connection with 4 practical steps to implement in less than a few hours, because I know that you all are busy parents, to calm the morning chaos and create a more connected routine. It's now available as a mini course. It takes less than an hour with practical takeaways that you can start using tomorrow. So, again, I'm Michelle, and I help parents who want to parent peacefully to foster strong relationships with their children and at times find it very challenging. When my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out. Not only did I struggle with responding peacefully or playfully, I got caught in an awful yelling pattern, followed by overwhelming shame because yelling was the last thing that I wanted to do. Now let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self-compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Keep an eye out and an ear out for the free webinar in January, 4 steps to escape yelling patterns in your parenting. And yeah, I'll be giving you more information about that. So, on to today's story. I remember the first time I heard another option to that relentless inner critic. I was listening to a meditation teacher, Joseph Goldstein. I found him through the meditation app Happier, and he was giving a talk, and he was talking about something that he was upset with himself about, and he kind of started to get hard on himself, and he was like, huh, look at that. I'm getting really hard on myself here. And now it's really interesting to hear the way that he was describing it, because I had never heard anybody notice their inner critic or talk about it that way. Like, huh, look at that. Look at the way I'm beating myself up there. That's interesting. And I thought, you mean that one, relentlessly beating myself up isn't the right way of doing things, and 2, there's another way of doing things that not everyone does this. There's a way to stop doing this. Is that possible? I could put down my whipping stick. I just remember that, like, whoa, wow, that's like really appealing. That's really appealing to not have this relentless inner critic that really makes me feel crappy, that doesn't really help me make the changes that I want to make. I was very intrigued. Parents sometimes say, I'm not hard on myself. I don't tell myself I'm a terrible parent, or I need to be hard on myself because if I don't keep beating myself up, or if I don't like continue to be hard on myself, then I'm going to keep doing the things I don't like, or it'll get worse. So let's look at these different objections. I mean, there are many, many more objections to kind of maintaining that inner critic. And I'm curious if you have any objections that you don't even know about. So let's look at a couple of them. The first objection, I'm not that hard on myself. I don't tell myself I'm a terrible parent. So the thing about our inner critic is it can be stealthy. Sometimes we have to look deeply to notice our inner critic is coming up and how it's affecting us and how it's affecting our parenting and how it's affecting how we feel about ourselves. Because it might not be so on the surface as saying things to ourselves like, I'm a terrible parent. It doesn't mean that that inner critic isn't there, and doesn't mean that it's not having a negative impact on us. The second objection I need to be hard on myself. If I don't, I'll keep doing things I don't like. I'll keep yelling at my kids. I'll keep doing XYZ. It'll get even worse. So I hear you that self-compassion sounds fluffy. Maybe you think it won't work for me. I mean, I appreciate that you're still listening. So awesome. I want to make my case. I want to make the case for you to at least be curious about self-compassion. The science says that people who are self-compassionate, and this science came from Kristen Neff's work, and it's on her website. You can find the research there. You can find research papers. You can find summaries of the research. So the science says that people who are self-compassionate are more likely to draw healthy boundaries and say no. Doesn't that sound nice to be able to say no when you want to say no, to have healthy boundaries with people, to feel authentic and connected and experience intimacy in your relationship with others? So it's easier to have that connection that we all crave, whether it be with our kids or with friends or a close significant other. It's easier to feel happy and optimistic and satisfied with our lives. Doesn't this sound like too good to be true? To have a stable and unconditional sense of self-worth. Stable. That word stable really strikes me. I love the idea of like the stability. Life's going to throw us ups and downs. To be forgiving and compassionate toward others. So isn't that often what's difficult in parenting is we get hooked and we get into that rigidity of being angry and upset with our kids. It's really difficult sometimes to be forgiving and compassionate towards them. So these are all things, and there's many more that people who are more self-compassionate are more likely to be able to do. And less likely, people who are self-compassionate are less likely to get burned out and depleted by their work as caregivers or professionals, i.e., parenting, right? Parenting can quickly and easily lead to burnout depending on the circumstances in which we are parenting. Experience intense shame and self-loathing. So again, people with self-compassion, the more self-compassionate they are, the less likely they are to experience shame and self-loathing, the less likely they are to experience base their self-worth and on social approval, perceived attractiveness, or success. They're less likely to get overwhelmed by stress. That sounds amazing. Less likely to feel lonely and isolated, and less likely to become hopeless about the future or cynical toward life. Wow. I mean, really, when I read these, it sounds like too good to be true. And that's what many of you might be thinking. And I hope you haven't tuned me out yet. Or maybe you're thinking, yeah, right, blah, 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 whatever. I hear you. I mean, when I first started using self-compassion, I was in, pretty severe depression. And so I wasn't using it because I was like, I don't know, Pollyanna about it. I was going to try it because I was desperate. And I believe in research. So if someone in lots of different sources, right? Tara Brach, Kristen Neff, Happier, app. I mean, there was lots of sources, and not to mention, of course, in the therapy world, and there was lots of sources that were saying that the research behind self-compassion is real. So out of desperation, I was like, fine, I'll try it. I'm desperate to not be miserable. So I would be great to not be miserable. So, so you can use me as a reference point. It made a huge difference. It was kind of shocking. And no, it did not happen overnight. No, it didn't happen the first time I used self-compassion. It's like I felt all better. No, it took months and now years. Over time, things shifted. How we feel about ourselves. So our inner critic isn't just like an annoying, like, I don't know, voice that we can't turn off. Our inner critic is our relationship with ourselves. It's how we feel about ourselves. It's what we tell ourselves about us. And this has a huge impact on our overall well-being, as you can hear from those examples above. So even if we're not aware and we're not aware that we have this inner critic and we kind of tune it out, that takes effort too, because it's harder to be in tune with life around us. We kind of need the support of distractions like social media or screens or maybe even alcohol or whatever to tune out that inner critic. So whether it be that we're overwhelmed by it and we can't escape the difficult thoughts, or we're escaping them, but because we're not dealing with them, neither one are particularly helpful, right? So the great news is we can actually change our relationship with ourselves. And that's really cool. That's really cool. And it's really empowering. And I hope offers a lot of hope if you like me struggle with an inner critic or low moods and things like that. And the better relationship we have with ourselves, the more agency we have in our relationships, and the more we can show up the way we want to with our kids, right? All these podcasts I'm talking about, like struggling with being triggered and struggling with being hooked and struggling with all these difficult moments. So the better relationship we have with ourselves, the easier it is to show up the way that we want to. P.S. The easier it is to be kinder and more compassionate to ourselves, the easier it is to be kinder and compassionate toward our kiddos. So if you're thinking to yourself, fine, okay, I hear you, I'll try it. Or maybe you're even excited to try it, but how? How am I supposed to do this, Michelle? Well, actually, if you've been listening, you've heard me talk about my favorite self-compassion practice over and over again. That's why I talk about it so much. um, and so first, like think of one of those situations where something's gone sideways with your kiddo. There's an interaction that's gone sideways and you think to yourself, why can't I get it right? Why do I get so upset? Maybe you're thinking like what they're doing, they never listen to me. Or so these are times you can use it, or any time you're struggling with difficult emotions in your parenting, fears, frustrations, whatever it is. That's the RAIN practice. So RAIN, RAIN, and I'll walk you through the steps. The R stands for recognize, recognizing the emotions that we have in the moment. And this is helpful for a few reasons, because when we zoom out and we notice what we're feeling, we've just created a little degree of separation from that feeling, because emotions can be overwhelming and difficult to feel. So so that they can kind of sweep us away, into the emotion. So when we say, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, no, we don't we don't just like immediately stop feeling them. But when we notice what we're feeling, it's like we've created a degree of separation from being swept away by those feelings. So that is one way in which it's powerful. It's also powerful because at first you might just always notice the surface level emotions. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sick of this, I'm tired of, I'm exhausted, all those kind of things that are sort of easier to label on the surface. You might also start to notice I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed, I'm afraid, I'm sad, I'm disappointed. And over time, the more you use the RAIN practice, the more you notice the other emotions that are there, as well as the anger and frustration, but are a little bit under the surface. The A is for allow. Can I allow these emotions to be present? So, Jeff Warren, the meditation teacher, says, welcome to the party, which I really love this analogy because it's kind of like a lighthearted way of, responding to our inner world and our emotions. And if you think about the whole point of this is to shift away from that inner critic and shift towards having a more positive relationship with ourselves. What a nice lighthearted way to do that, right? So I like to imagine a campfire, and whenever a difficult emotion comes up, it's like, welcome to the party, anger, and I put a blanket around them and I welcome them to the campfire and I say, welcome to the party, embarrassment. Join the campfire. Welcome to the party, sadness. And I picture it like the movie Inside Out, like the characters, and they're kind of like this exaggerated version of feeling angry, an exaggerated version of sadness, an exaggerated version of exhaustion or whatever it is. And again, you are sitting with your emotions, you're noticing them, and you're allowing them to be there versus judging yourself for them. That's the inner critic. Why do I feel this way? I shouldn't feel this way. I should be calmer. I should, on and on and on. Or pushing them away by either keeping the blame on the outside, like blaming the other person that's involved, probably your kid, or just like shutting them off completely, like tuning out. This isn't a problem. It doesn't matter, picking up your phone and mindlessly scrolling and things like that, because again, these emotions are difficult. That's why the structure of the RAIN practice is helpful, because emotions are difficult. They can be difficult. The next one is I switched this up to interconnected. So this comes from Kristen Neff describes the benefit of reminding ourselves that we're not alone, of common humanity. So when we think to ourselves, like, it's normal to feel frustrated when my kid does XYZ, most parents would struggle in this situation. It's normal to feel embarrassed about XYZ that my kid has done. It's normal to feel sad, disappointed, afraid, whatever it is. And when we remind ourselves it's normal to feel this, many other parents likely feel this too. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know if that's true. There's almost 8 to 9 billion people on the planet, depending on what the counter says right now. And I can pretty much guarantee that not only do other parents feel exactly what you're feeling, but they're likely other parents feeling it exactly in the same moment with you. So you're truly not alone, because while yes, we are very unique as humans, we are also have a lot of similarities. And it's really normal to feel difficult feelings in your parenting. So if you're like, I don't know, Michelle, I don't believe you, you can at least know that I have felt these difficult feelings. So you can say, it's normal to feel this way. Michelle has felt this way too. Whatever is believable to you, that's the point. So interconnected, reminding yourself that you're not alone. And in is need. What do I need in this moment? I often like to use Kristen Neff's offer of, may I be gentle with myself in this difficult moment. May I be gentle with my kiddo in this difficult moment. So that's a really compassionate response to the struggle that we are experiencing. The in could be also something more concrete, like, I need to call my friend and vent about this. I need to call my friend and talk about anything else but this. I need to text my partner. I used to love to text my husband like crazy angry emotion emojis, and it would be fun to like look through all those emojis and find the angry ones, and I wouldn't even say what was going on or why I was angry. I would just send him all these crazy emojis and he knew something was up. And it was like, I was getting it out, but in a healthy, constructive way, and also kind of starting to shift my mind out of that anger. It might be taking a walk. And sometimes when we're hooked and triggered, it's very difficult even to remember these things. So I would suggest you write them down and put them on your refrigerator or in your bathroom or on your mirror so that you can see them when you need them, the things that help in these moments. Again, if you are not able to do something, it might just be, may I be gentle with myself in this difficult moment. So in the course, this is where parents often do their deepest work. They identify the stuck places, they create plans for how to avoid the same negative pattern continuing. And this allows the inner shift to follow, like the working on the self-compassion piece allows the inner shift, shifting out of that negative inner critic that just keeps us stuck into self-compassion, creates a deeper inner shift that keeps it, takes it beyond just a strategy, a tool, something on the surface that we're doing that we can easily fall out of and forget, to a deeper, more automatic response in those difficult moments. That is the real beauty for me behind shifting out of self-criticism and into self-compassion. So, in summary, we can tame our inner critic, and taming our inner critic creates a more positive relationship within ourselves and makes it far easier to have the relationships we desire with our kiddos. So, I would love for you to give it a try too. And I would like for you to give it time. Please don't do it one time and say, that doesn't work. Um, it will feel a little bit awkward at first. That's okay. That's normal. You don't have to be like, oh my, you don't have to believe that this is gonna be work to go through the motions. You're just trying something new. Anytime you try something new, it often feels awkward or a little bit forced, right? You're like learning to bat for the first time. It's not going to feel comfortable and natural. It's going to feel awkward and forced because they've told you how to hold the bat and they've told you how to stand, and it feels awkward and strange. So this is not anything different. It will feel a little bit awkward and strange, and that's okay. Give it time. Keep trying it anytime you have a difficult emotion. And I would love for you to give it a month. Try this anytime you have a difficult emotion over the next month, and let me know how it goes. I really want to hear from you. I want to hear. It's so heartwarming when I hear from parents. I love getting stories from parents. I love hearing how things are going. I love getting questions, because otherwise it's like I'm in a vacuum. So I'd love to hear from you. This week's play idea, a gratitude jar. So get a mason jar or something similar. It could be a box too, and decorate it with your kiddo. Make it beautiful, sparkly, or colorful, or whatever your kiddo likes. And it's going to go next to their bed. And each at night before you go to bed, you can each write one thing on a piece of paper that you're grateful for, and fold it up and stick it in the jar. And they can watch their gratitude jar fill up. And it's such a nice routine to have with your kiddo. And then if they feel, sad one day, they can pull out those things and read through them. So don't forget, I have a morning reset from chaos to connection. It's 4 practical steps to implement in less than a few hours to calm the morning chaos and create a more connected routine. It's now available as a mini course. It takes less than 1 hour because I know you're a busy parent, and you can start using the practical tips tomorrow. Keep an eye and an ear out for the free webinar in January, 4 steps to escape yelling patterns in your parenting. And if you join the newsletter, you will get access to the rain, guided rain meditation. So I'll talk you through it. And also there's a written description, and you can get all of that by just joining the newsletter or signing up for the guided audio pause and regroup, and it'll come in the 3rd or 4th email. So check it out. A reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy and should not be a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thank you so much for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well.